solar industry veteran, entrepreneur, and author of No Matter What, a powerful book about resilience, leadership, and perseverance, staying committed to your mission through the highs and lows of the solar business. Michael has spent decades helping shape the solar industry, build successful organizations, and navigate the challenges that come with solar. In this conversation, we're going to take a deep dive into No Matter What, the experience that has shaped his journey and his perspectives on where the solar industry is headed next. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Michael O'Donnell.
Jonathan, great to be here with you. It's been great to know you over the years, and I've been looking forward to getting together today and talking about the solar industry and going green.
I'm excited. Let's do it. Well, I got to start off by saying this. I've been prepping for this interview and this conversation. We've talked, many times over the years, but I had to reread No Matter What. So I did before we started. And I'm going to tell you what, I feel like you wrote that book for me.
Wow.
It's literally, it's very convicting, if I'm honest, right? We can just start off with some honesty here. It's very, very convicting. Whenever I read that book, it kind of checks me at a different level. And it's like, makes me go, you know what? Like, how committed am I really to this? Am I as committed as I say I am, And so it's been challenging me in a good way. But just a quick plug to start the conversation off. If you're in the solar space and you haven't read No Matter What, like, this is the Bible of solar, and I've already made some people on my team buy the book. So
right on,
thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate you writing that.
I was just talking to somebody about it yesterday. I wrote that in the midst of being pretty busy, and I had kind of been sold on the idea that, I could spend time with the team and talk to this, sort of not a ghost author, but, a team that would help you collaborate and write the book. And so I spent lots of hours talking and being interviewed and all that kind of stuff, and then was just wanting the book to snap together. And I was absolutely hated the outcome. And I did it a second time with another group, hated the outcome. I just had to sit down and write the thing to have it be in my voice and my experience. And I'm really glad I did. And having that feedback from you and others that, wow, I really feel like you were speaking to me. And it's really been something that's, helped me construct a successful solar career. That's what I wanted in putting it together. And it's really been a great experience. I'm currently the author of one of the chapters in a book called Built Different. Sam Taggart's putting together, it's getting collated now. I've already written my chapter, which I'm hoping is sort of the forward and entry, the introduction to my next book, which I'm in the process of writing. But that is going to be a collection of 25 Golden Door Award winners, in each writing their own story into a chapter. And that book is called Built Different. So Sam Taggart's been putting that together. That'll be coming out later this year. So it's a real rewarding experience to actually sit down and really give some thought. What do I do? What is the cause of the success and the failure? What are the things I really would pass on to somebody? What's really going to be helpful or hope to be helpful? So it's been a really good experience.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I can tell you wrote it in your voice after speaking with you several times in person. It definitely, I didn't know that you had, originally had ghostwriters. I didn't know about that detail, but I can tell it's written in your voice. Yeah. And I'm glad you took the time to do it, because it's like you're speaking my language. Like, whenever I read it, I'm like, this is somebody who intimately understands what we do for a living, which is belly to belly, face to face, making friends, as you say, and helping homeowners make that transition. So it's been fantastic. And I'm curious, I know you talked about it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about it in the book, but for those who haven't read the book yet, what was it that really made you finally do it and write it?
Well, I kept getting asked the question, you've managed to figure out how to make a 7-figure income in sales. How do you do it? So being on podcasts and talking from stages and giving trainings and speaking on stages, people like, how do you do it? How do you do it? And, so it was really like, you should write a book. Right. And that's My coach, Coach Michael Burt, has 17 books, and same thing. He's like, you really need to write a book, and you can make some money writing a book. And I've sold 25,000 copies, which is, a good number of copies for a book that's not in the mainstream public, things like that. But really what you want it to do is serve as sort of a credential, right? You've accomplished something that people want to know about, and you do have something to say. And, when you're introduced and brought up to a stage, the author of, which is why I really recommend, I think everyone has a book in them. And you have something to pass along, and maybe a book isn't the format, but I really believe in passing it on. Part of my story is my now over 40 years of being clean and sober in 12-step programs, and one of the core tenets of that is passing it on. The first step is getting to a point where you admit you have a problem and you go through this journey of recovery, but all along, and certainly in the last of it, is it's just imperative to pass it on, because it's in the passing on that you learn it again and again and again, and get brought back to day one. Oh yeah, that's right. That's what I learned by going through all that stuff, was I learned X, Y, and Z. And as you pass it on, you become reacquainted with, oh yeah, that's right. That's what happens when I take one of these. The first day or two is fine, but 3 weeks later, trying to get bailed out of jail isn't as much fun.
Yeah. No, and that's even why I do the podcast as well, right? It's because having conversations with other people, not being in a silo or being in just stuck in your bubble, in your market or whatever you sell with your team, and I try to, branch out and do what I can to connect and learn from other teams, other companies, which we'll talk about Sun Solar Solutions in just a little bit. But before we get into that, I followed, a lot of your talks and stuff recently. There's so many things I want to ask you about, but one of the first things that just came to my mind, and I want to ask you before I forget, is the last time I heard you speak on stage was at the final Solar Con that we have ever had. And you had some poignant and powerful words to share. And I thought, out of all of the leaders that spoke and shared their ideas on stage, yours were the most poignant. And then kind of follow up to that, I've seen some of your most recent posts, we'll say the name here on the podcast, Post Freedom Forever. So, but I'll let you speak however you want to speak about that. But what, that whole thing of seeing a company like that, just anyone who missed that, I feel like what you had to say and your message about companies, being led like that company was led, just share that with the audience. What is your perspective on that?
Well, if the title of that talk on YouTube ended up being actual leadership versus some kind of righteous indignation or whatever, servant righteousness or whatever the hell, I don't even remember what it was, but I actually, to tell you the truth, I had a completely different talk written for what would have been Solar 2025, and now we know is the last SolarCon. Until I heard Mr. Brett Bushy speak on Wednesday, the day before my speech. I was on stage 24 hours after hearing him do his talk, and I just ripped my speech up and gave a completely different talk. And I was really taken aback, and I would say somewhat horrified that we had supposedly a leader who was, I guess in the business of going out of business at the time. I'm sure he didn't know that then, but that's what was happening, right? Get up in front of an entire industry and point the finger at the salespeople. This is a sales conference, right? To point the finger at the salespeople at industry and say, you guys are the problem. Your big check Fridays, your have to think you make a lot of money on a deal, and all of those things you are the problem. You're the reason solar has been struggling for the last year and a half, and you're the reason why Titan went out of business, and these guys went out of business, and Sonova in the process of going out. You guys are why the industry is struggling, because you guys think you need to make a living and a lucrative living doing that. So I come from a different place. I don't think that you make very good money unless you're delivering a very valuable service. If you have figured out a way to make a lot of money without providing a ton of value, then you're a con man. And I joined him in saying to the audience of solar salespeople, if you're making a lot of money and not delivering a lot of value, then you are a con man and you need to get the F out of solar. And I would say probably half of the solar industry is out of solar, and that's why. They never understood what the value was. They thought solar was about spending a tiny little bit of time and making a whole gigantic amount of money without really delivering any value. They were running around going, hey, go solar, it's cheaper. Hey, go solar, I can save you, hundreds of dollars a month, or blah, 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 blah. And the real problem with the solar industry, and I talk about solar 2.0, I think I'm the only guy in solar that's been in solar 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. Solar 1.0 was me in 1982, 83, 84, selling solar water heaters, right? Started in the phone room and worked my way to closer. Sold a lot of solar water heaters, made very good money doing that. And then it kind of ended. The tax credit was over. My degree studies were all in IT. I got into the IT industry for the next 20 years. 25 years, and was out of solar. Came back in solar in 2015, which was smack dab in the middle of solar 2.0, which started in 2005 is when the PV tax credit came about, and that's what gave birth to this current, solar industry. Well, that tax credit lasted, and that's solar 2.0 from 2005 to December 31st, 2025. That tax credit is over, gone, dead, buried, and so is solar 2.0. It's over. It's dead. The hallmarks of what made solar 2.0 a wild, wild west, and a lucrative business to a bunch of people who didn't understand why it was lucrative. Those people have washed out. They're selling fake grass and death insurance, and God bless them and good riddance. We didn't need a bunch of guys who wanted to make a lot of money without delivering value. And a bunch of guys who wanted to, find someone else to do the work, and they would just kind of sweep in at the last moment and write people up and make whatever thousands of dollars to do that. That's not what the money's for. The money's for something really, really specific. And in Solar 3.0, which started in January 1st of 2026, we're in the midst of why solar came about. Solar came about because somehow we knew we were going to need a massive amount of energy that needed to come from a clean place, that needed to be renewable, that needed to be inexpensive. And solar's been getting ready to take its place in what the world needs to do, getting into its next place. And that's what's going on right now. It's not solar, it's the world. We are transitioning from a completely, it's not even era. It's like, get a rounding error for 2020 and call it the beginning of the third millennium. Like, we're right now entering the third millennium, and we've been in the baby steps with the internet coming about, with, all of the things that come about with, mobile devices having the internet. And we're now been really preparing for the step off point, which is happening in 2026, which is artificial intelligence, really coming about and changing humanity and how it does things. We're right here, right now. And the thing that we're discovering is that what's needed for artificial intelligence to complete its destiny, to bring humanity into that next step, is a massive amount of energy that nobody could have contemplated. We didn't contemplate, maybe with the exception of Elon Musk, who got these solar panel things started in the 2000 teens and was preparing that industry. It's like, when you listen to Elon Musk, you realize he's starting all these companies and starting all these enterprises, if you can believe him, which I do, for the sheer benefit of his bigger vision. Like, he needs all these elements in place so that we can become an interplanetary species, right? So part of it was getting energy off to a clean, renewable, and scalable start. And he did that by starting Solar City. It was the first real big solar deal. It's where everybody learned kind of how to sell solar, except for me. I learned how to sell solar before Elon Musk was a name. I learned how to sell solar in 1983. I was a setter in a phone room setting appointments for water heater salesmen. We had 10 men who were like looking for the next gig, and the government was paying for, at that time, a 50% tax credit on these solar water heaters federally, and another 25 from the state of California. They were 75% free. It was ridiculous not to buy it. Right. I thought I'm like, wow, I have found my calling. It turns out I'm an amazing salesperson. Well, when you're selling stuff that's 75% free, almost everybody's an amazing salesperson. And so that was, the 80s. and the beginning of solar 1.0. And solar 2.0, solar became interesting and novel. At first novel, like, you had hobbyists putting up solar panels in 2005, and maybe environmental hardcore people that were like trying to reduce their, carbon footprint in 2010. But by 2012 and prior to that, solar was more than $10 a watt. Like, it wasn't, like, not only was it didn't pencil, it wasn't feasible without a tax credit. You couldn't spend $120,000 on a 12 kilowatt system and expect it to ever make a return. And so that's why you needed a 30% federal tax credit. And most of the utilities at that time were supplying other tax credits because they were forced to get to a certain amount of renewable energy by X date. And so they were giving massive rebate. So you needed every bit of that rebate to make a 10 kilowatt system for 120 grand ever get to a point where it was paying for itself. That's not the case today, right? We've gone from $10 a watt to solar sold at about $3 a watt. The customer does well, the solar company does well, the salesperson does well at $3 a watt, and it's a fantastic industry. But it's an industry that has been preparing to come of age. And the day one coming of age was January 1st, 2026. This is solar 3.0. And in solar 3.0, solar is not novel, right?
Right.
Oh, you guys, 10 people knocked on my door. That's not novel, right? Oh, wow. You mean if I had solar panels, I could get my electric bill to $14. But then the other bill, the solar bill, would be, roughly kind of similar, maybe $50, $100 less than I was paying before. But I'm kind of paying every month for an electric bill. So it's not as interesting, as people were hoping it was going to be in solar 2.0. And that's not the issue anymore. It's not that it's novel. It's not that it's interesting. Now solar is absolutely essential. It is existential to a homeowner knowing that they have provisioned the power their family needs at an affordable price, and that they're going to be able to get that power, have that power, and be able to pay for it in the budget they currently have set. If they don't have solar, they don't know what electricity will cost them in 5 years. I would suggest that it's likely to cost at least double what it costs now. Nor will they be assured that they'll have it on demand, like they think they just take that for granted. And so we're in for a big shift in thinking, where all of a sudden people are going to understand it's not novel, it's not interesting. It's like, I'm in big ass trouble if I don't have my own power plant that I'm in control of, that all of the energy belongs to me, and I know what it's going to cost me, not over the next year or 10 years, but over the next 25 and 50 years. We know exactly what that energy is going to cost. And that's going to be amid a time when the cost of energy is literally, it'll be like Moore's Law. Moore's Law for digital circuits, and then later semiconductors and the Intel chips. Moore was the guy who started Intel. And he postulated that these semiconductors would become twice as powerful and have twice as many chips on the same square inch. And that would continue to expand at an exponential rate every single 2 years, which is beyond anything anyone's ever heard about. I would suggest that's what we're about to find out with AI and the cost of the electricity and the impact that has with the customer. So here we are. That's today, right now. And I feel like I'm delivering more value than I ever have. I feel like the product that I'm selling is more. My other topic at that SolarCon was the day before I was asked to give a talk. Me and Val Barachet, my partner at Sun Solar Solutions, Chase Anderson, we gave kind of a podcast style talk about, is solar dead? And the answer was yes. Solar is dead. Solar 2.0 is in the death struggles of going away. The big beautiful bill was ending the residential tax credit. It was going to end the commercial tax credit as well. It didn't, for a very good reason, and against Trump's will. It didn't end because it was essential. And so now we've arrived at a completely different point, and solar is going to take its place and become, you would no sooner think about buying a house in Arizona without a solar system than you would think of buying one today without an air conditioner. It'll just be unthinkable. And so it's essential. It's, I think, existential, and the time for that is right now.
I got it. I love that. Thank you for that. That was so valuable. And I just want to share a quick little story before I ask you another really
Yeah.
poignant question, right? So I started in the industry 2013 as energy efficiency guy here in Southern California. So
Yep.
I was a building performance analyst. I did the Energy Upgrade California programs. And this was back in NEM 1, Net Metering 1 days back then. So my first, 5-6 years of my career, kind of NEM 1, NEM 2, I did around 600 retrofit sales. A lot of PACE financing, Hero program. There's some different ones out there that, good, bad, right? People have opinions on. But
man, it would have been great if that PACE program really turned into a prolific thing. I think one of the downsides of solar is that it has really been prejudicial. It has not served the low income and lower middle income, which is who needs it more than anybody. Community. It's mostly been for people because of the tax credit, upper income and high income individuals, because they could utilize and get their hands on the tax credit. So that's awesome. You were able to do those PACE jobs.
It was great PACE, and then we were doing like rebate programs, and I was selling solar, but it was what they called a peak shaving system, where it was like a 3 to 5 kilowatt system to just get rid of those higher tiers.
Take the edge off.
Yeah, so we did that, and then I didn't go full solar until 2018, where I got involved. That's whenever I actually made a commitment at 2017 when I was 25 years old. I said, I'm going to commit the next 25 years of my life to becoming one of the preeminent leaders in the solar and green energy space. And that was, 9 years ago that I committed that. And right, I'm 34, so I have at least another 16 years in front of me.
Yeah, and I think that's about the right horizon. That's perfect.
Yeah, and I didn't know that was the horizon back, what that meant. It felt right, and I committed to it, and I've been on this journey since, right? But what happened was I got into Vivint Solar, learned from some of the best door-to-door people I've ever, to this day, still some of the best names I've ever worked with here in Southern California.
Those are the OGs.
The OGs. We were the originals. Literally, that was the name of our team. And I mean, I don't want to name drop too many, but just some incredible 1,000+ sales people. And I was always in the top 5 to 10% on the team, kind of, a team leader, had a small team under me doing that 2018. And then I remember 2020 hit, and a lot happened in 2020. I remember that's whenever I first started selling batteries. I've always been kind of an early adopter. So I was the one selling batteries. Vivint got acquired later that year by Sunrun, became Sunrun Direct. And I was, pushing batteries. I was one of the only people in my office, by the way, pushing batteries. I would say about 80% of my jobs.
Yeah, you were ahead of your time. Sunrun, was soon after that to make their whole company about making sure a battery went with every sale. But you were certainly ahead of that curve.
Yeah. So what happened was they've switched their messaging to, we are America's leading energy storage solutions, right? We're America's leading energy, home energy storage, right? They have a lot of language around that.
Yeah.
And I remember whenever 2023 hit, right? Whenever net metering 3.0 hit, and I had some breakout performances. I had my best week. I did 17 closed deals in 1 week. And I remember they said, well, let's let Jonathan speak for a little bit, get up and talk to the room. And we had a big team. We had 150 reps at that time. And we were putting up numbers like over 200 sales in 1 week of volume, like the team was. So it was an incredible team to be a part of at that time. And they said, we're going to let Jonathan do the battery training, right? So I got up in front. I just like to share this story because I want to get your take on this. So I get up in front of the group and everyone's staring at me. What's Jonathan going to say about batteries?
Let's go.
I say, I want to start by saying this. All of you guys who are freaking out about how NEM 3.0 works didn't even understand how NEM 2.0 worked. Right. So first of all, let's just get it straight. Like, a lot of you guys were selling a product you didn't fully understand. So let's change that. And I kind of get up on my high horse, right, about this. This is my little self-righteous march, if you will, which is that our industry, one of my biggest pet peeves, I'll call it to be polite, is that our industry doesn't seem to have a proper appreciation and respect for how important storage is in this conversation. So much so that I tell, from all the trainings I do, whether on stage or with my teams, I say, we're a battery first design. When we build your system, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, we actually, it's not how many solar panels do you need on your roof, it's how many batteries do you need, and then how many solar panels do you need to charge those batteries. Now, I understand that net metering still exists a lot of the other parts of the country, right? And I've sold the net metering pitch before. I've sold hundreds of systems with solar and no batteries, right? And I know that, you know, Arizona's laws have been shifting right behind California's, and you guys are, my understanding is right there basically on a, batteries are required essentially in that market now. But kind of, you know, fill the listeners in, like, how do you see batteries fitting in? How is it currently fitting in the Arizona market?
Well, so they're not required, but they're essential. So if you deploy solar at Arizona Public Service or SRP, you're not going to get the results you're looking for if it doesn't also come with a battery. We're way ahead of California in terms of getting rid of net metering. We lost net metering in Arizona in 2017. Phoenix did. It was 2018 in Tucson. Those are the main markets. So net metering's been gone since then. And what replaced it is net billing, right? You're getting paid one rate to purchase power from the utility and a much different rate to sell it back. And that's been happening gradually over time in Arizona. The original rate for power exported to the grid in the first year after net metering, which was 2018, was 12.9 cents. I bought my house in 2018, equipped it, and I'm now grandfathered into 12.9 cent power. Right. So I think in California, they threw the light switch and it went like right immediate. To 2 or 3 cents. Yeah. So we've been in Arizona gradually stepping down. What we did in the first initial maybe 5 years was to increase the number of panels and increase the production so that we were selling more power to offset the decrease and the gap between the buy and the sell. It got to be untenable when the power got to, 7, 6, 7, 8 cents. Because you couldn't make a 1.8 production to usage work. Just too much, not enough space on the roof, and you'd blow out the panel, all sorts of things. So it was at that time my partner, Val Barraquette, who had really moved the battery equation, the battery design idea ahead dramatically in probably 16, 17, 18 for SRP, who had a demand plan. The part of the problem with batteries is that solar salespeople are talking people out of batteries. And for the most part, they're probably correct in talking people out of batteries if the conversation is about savings, except for California and Arizona and some of the other places where the battery has a job to do that contributes to the savings. Adding a battery to solar makes the solar system more expensive. And then if you're selling it based on savings, it now doesn't make sense. And so solar salespeople have been talking people out of batteries. Well, listen. How often is the grid really going to be down? If you're not shifting power from one time of day to another time of day and avoiding arbitrage and taking advantage of arbitrage, the different time of use, demand, etc. If you don't have that, the battery just sits around, and you got a $16,000 piece of equipment waiting for a power outage. That there's no return on that investment. And so obviously, unless the power really goes down and the zombie apocalypse gets here and you go, wow, I'm really glad I got that battery. But if that never happens, you got this big asset that doesn't have a job to do. And so in California, avoiding exporting power because the price is so bad, and or in Arizona, where both major utilities, SRP and APS, have demand plans. Demand is interesting. We should be, as an industry, really trying to collaborate. In California with batteries, you're avoiding interacting with the utility at all. We just don't want to get involved with the utility because it's such a jip on selling and buying the power back. So let's not sell anything to the utility or avoid it as much as possible. Different case with demand. That's a different thing. Demand is really the problem. So what's happening with AI and AI data centers is that they are producing what I call a tsunami in demand. We are literally... And we're all sitting there going, I think we're okay. We're still at about the right thing. What we can't see and the homeowner can't see is right behind him is literally a tidal wave of electric demand for AI that's being plugged in 2026. So in 2026, we're going to plug in $1.3 trillion worth of AI construction. The demand associated that is roughly the demand of the United States. If you were to go get the demand for the United States, you would find that the United States uses 4 trillion kilowatt hours.
Wow.
If you extrapolate 1.3 trillion, get one of these hyperscale data centers that needs 2 gigawatts and say that's a $2.6 billion dollar construction, and you extrapolate that 2.6 billion to the 1.3 trillion. We're talking guys with boots, hard hats, tool belts, cranking construction on AI data center space this year that needs to be plugged in. If you extrapolate that one hyperscale data center at 2.2, I'm thinking about one in Florida, which is Fort Meade data center, 2.2 billion. It's 4.4 million square feet. It's going to be about 2 gigawatts of power. If you extrapolate that out across the 1.3 trillion, what we need is about 4 trillion kilowatt hours to actually meet that demand. That's the current usage of the United States. So when Trump came on after being inaugurated, and like the second day after being in office, had a talk with the American people. And it wasn't these, ramblings from the White House Oval Office where he's like, as of today, we're going to say that the blue sky is called purple. Executive Order 303. And as of from this day forward, the Gulf of Mexico will be known as the Gulf of America, right? It wasn't that. He came out and did a My Fellow Americans evening speech, take over all the channels. We are screwed. We have a problem. Elon's in one ear. David Sachs is in the other ear. He's the AI czar, works for the Department of Energy. He's a guy that can make $1 billion a year in AI, and he's just working for free for the United States, helping us grapple with what's going to happen. They're going, guys, we've done the calculations. This Trump a year ago. We've done the calculations for how much power AI is going to need, and here's the result. AI is going to need all of it. Every single bit. We have 4 trillion kilowatt hours. The AI needs 4 trillion kilowatt hours. Nothing like that in the history, other than like, we're going to go over to Europe and fight World War II,
right,
has ever been said on a national announcement. Trump revised that from the White House maybe 6 weeks ago when he had David Sachs, but he had the 4 companies who are spending half of that 1.3 trillion. Microsoft, Alphabet, which is Google, Meta, and Amazon. Those 4 companies, which all have a multiple trillion-dollar valuation, are spending a huge percentage of that valuation building data center construction space this year. They're half of that 1.3 trillion spend in 2026. And Trump supposedly was going to make them pinky swear that they would bring the power with them. You can't. Dude, the only way to make power is to build a natural gas plant. Natural gas turbines are 3 years back ordered, and the price of them, because of the supply and demand problem, is 300%.
Wow.
What the cost was when they were ordering them 2 years ago. They've gone up 300% in 2 years. You're talking about the massive natural gas turbines. Why? Because the demand for electricity that's not yet being generated is off the chart so bad nobody knows what they're going to do. Mr. Wonderful's in Utah, right?
Yep, I've seen that.
Kevin O'Leary. And he's there going, guys, I'm building the largest data center in the world. It's going to need 4 trillion kilowatt. 9 gigawatts. So, by the way, if you notice that these data centers are not measured in square feet or billions of dollars, what are they measured in? Energy. Yeah, he's building a 9 gigawatt data center. That would be the largest data center in the planet. It's 40,000 acres that it sits on. The state of Utah's current electricity usage is 4 gigawatts, the whole state. And he's building a building that needs 9.
That's insane. I've seen these, I'm following these exact same things. And so if you're listening to this, first of all, I'm getting fired up over here.
Yeah.
But if you're listening to this, I mean, I'm using this in every homeowner conversation.
Every single one.
Every single one. We're talking about AI, data centers. You've seen it on the news. It's everywhere. We just had yesterday, I think it was yesterday or the day before, we had one of the governor race candidates over here in California, Mr. Chad Bianco, who's running. And he said a lot of stuff that was accurate, but he said some other stuff that made me scratch my head and just shake my head, where he said, oh, you know what? We're going to get into office and we're going to cut your rates in half because we're going to force the utilities to put.
Remember, Trump said that too.
No, it's crazy. We're gonna force. They're just
electric rates
they're
in half.
so out of touch with reality. We're gonna force the utilities to put all the wires underground, and we're gonna build a bunch of nuclear plants everywhere, and it's gonna support blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, first of all, same thing. It's gonna take years to deploy a nuclear plant, right? Whenever you can deploy, a few gigawatts worth of power with a nuclear plant, where companies like Sunrun are deploying, multiple nuclear plants worth of energy in less than a year.
Every day, yes.
Yeah, all the time.
So 80% of the new generation is solar.
And people don't know.
It has been for years.
Over in China, I think it's some insane stat, like 80 to 90% of all the new electrons being added to China's electricity grids are coming from, solar energy, specifically solar. And so for people to sit here and kind of like, it blows my mind, regardless of whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, like the disconnection from logic and reality that I experience. And so I think really what it comes down to is making it in simple terms, which you're a genius at that, at the kitchen table, right?
Well, as California goes, so goes the nation. And California already went through this with the internet, right? Amazon, same companies, Amazon, Google, Meta, these guys built these huge data centers around Silicon Valley. But what they didn't build was more power plants. And California's been struggling now for a long time with brownouts, and just the supply and demand is out of whack. But on a scale that's entirely different, because those data centers, a big data center was maybe 100 megawatts. Monstrous was 300 megawatts. And now you've got, and this is one of the reasons I've been tight. I got on the stage at SolarCon 2024 and was talking about the fact that, Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson are on a podcast that day talking about AI is going to use more power than countries. So in one state, one building, it uses more than 2 times the whole state of demand worth of power in that place. And so now Mr. Wonderful, who was the most popular guy to have on a TV show 6 months ago, is being run out of town on a rail. Right. Because he's trying to fix the problem. And what's the problem? We don't have the energy. He's going to pipe that in this proposal, in this project. He's going to pipe this gas down from Canada, which has more natural gas than they know what to do with it, straight into a turbine and make the own power, make the data center's own power, as opposed to what Google and Microsoft have been doing. They're pinky swear to buy the power, to bring the power so that it doesn't hurt the local, ecology of how much power is available. Well, what Google spent almost $6 billion last year buying power plants. Like, they bought a nuclear power plant. Microsoft bought 3 Mile Island, and they're taking these plants off the grid. They're not adding power to the grid. They're buying power plants and pulling them off the grid. And they're moving the meter from here to here. They're literally capturing power plants. They're spending any amount of money. The amount of billions that have been spent on big corporations buying power plants, the ones that used to provide the grid and now being dedicated to AI, that's what's going to cause the immediate shortage. I don't know if you saw this, but Nevada Energy, Warren Buffett's little pet project, buying a big power company. And I'm in Nevada right now. I'm in Las Vegas. So NV Energy just sent notice to the city of Lake Tahoe, the town of Lake Tahoe. By the way, we're giving you 60 days notice. We've been offered, right? This is, my moniker on social media is the Godfather of Solar. They got a Godfather offer, an offer they can't refuse. They tell the city of Tahoe, we just got an offer we can't refuse. The amount of money they're willing to pay us for this energy, we've decided to give it to AI instead of Lake Tahoe.
Right. And all those homeowners are left out to dry.
They're just been given notice. We're not going to provide it anymore. You're going to need to find another supplier. That agreement that homeowners have with utilities, they think, well, I got plugs. There's always going to be power coming out of that outlet in the wall. They don't have any agreement with you to make sure that never gets interrupted. In fact, because of this supply and demand problem, which supply and demand causes prices to soar, but it also causes the product to not be available. Think of COVID, and you want to buy a Ford F-150. I got my 40 grand. I saved it up. Where's my Ford one? We don't have any. The lots are empty. What do you mean they're empty? Yeah, they're all stuck on a cargo container ship, whatever the chips are. Well, there's one available. I want it. Oh, well, that's $90,000 for a Ford F-150. Well, Ford F-150s don't cost $90,000. Well, they do right now. Supply and demand is so out of whack. And so that's what happens when supply and demand is out of whack. But the other thing that happens is it's just not available. There's no cars on the lot. And that's the point with electricity for Lake Tahoe. They're just going to be unavailable. And, you know, there they sit on a mountain that straddles California and Nevada. Why are they been getting their power from the Nevada side? Because their residents could get it for 16, 17, 18 cents a kilowatt hour. Now they're going to have to get it from the other side of the mountain from PG&E. You tell me, what's PG&E charge for electricity?
46 cents a kilowatt hour on average.
Yep. 46, and it goes up to 58 at different times. So yeah, so all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh, could your electricity price double? Oh, no, it couldn't double. It's not going to double. It's going to go up 400%, 4x.
Right.
Now, luckily everyone in Lake Tahoe's rich, so they'll be able to deal with it. No one's going to feel sorry for them. But that's going to be a problem that is unsolvable.
And here's, I mean, you're hitting all the right points. It's like the thing that I don't think people realize too on the solar side. So let's go back to you just talked about the consumer side. Let's talk about the solar side. So we've seen companies like Sunrun recently, where they've cut all their dealer channels and said, we're keeping all of these assets, these distributed grid assets for ourselves, for our customers, and we're safe harboring as much equipment as we can get poured into to get the maximum value possible. Yep. And you're seeing, I'm sure you're probably seeing this in your markets too, but I'm seeing hard lines drawn in the sand with finance partners and sales orgs saying, we want exclusivity. We want to move away from a broker model. We need stability and security. And salespeople who just used to be able to jump and pop around can't do that anymore.
That's over. That was Solar 2.0, where you have gypsies and pirates and, you know, bandits running around from city to city to city. They don't know dick all about what happens to solar in this or energy in this community. They're pitching everywhere like it has net metering, whether it has net metering or not. They're just running around going, go solar, it's cheaper. They're literally looking for that door that's never been knocked, and they don't know anything about the energy. So those guys running around selling bad solar deals to customers that didn't understand it and didn't tell them what the remaining bill was going to be. And, oh, I'm sorry, did I leave that off the proposal? Oh, you wanted your solar bill to be $149, so I made it $149. How did I do that? Oh, I took 15 panels off. Oh, I didn't tell you that was going to cause your electric bill to go up by $180, your remaining bill with the utility. And it's like all that stuff was just a wild, wild west. Can you imagine buying real estate in the late 1800s without there being real estate laws? You'd have people buying the Brooklyn Bridge. Oh, that's what we had happening before there were actual guardrails up. We had people selling the Brooklyn Bridge. And essentially, we've had that going on in solar. We've had sales reps selling the Brooklyn Bridge to unsuspecting, unaware homeowners. And then you'd have had other people doing it right. I would say one of the reasons that Sunrun cut all those brokers and wants to continue to do business with my company, Sun Solar Solutions, is because we've been doing deals right. For the last 12 years. I believe we've been skating to where the puck's going to go. And believe me, I could have made a lot more money selling lower red lines if I just didn't mind that 1/3 of the systems I installed had a leaky roof, and then I changed my phone number so I don't have to come back and fix the leaky roof. But, you know, that's not been our path. Our path is to be transparent, have integrity, unbelievable quality, not just quality, but safety. Like when a man falls off a roof and breaks his head, is he going to sue the homeowner? Is he going to sue the company? The company might go out of business because they don't have enough coverage to cover a wrongful death. There's a lot of things you have to do right to be a successful contractor. And when you have some idiot who adds up the price of solar panels and an inverter and puts enough commission on it for the sales guy who wants half the revenue, and thinks that's a business model, that's not a business model. That's a go out of business model. And half of the companies have gone out of business, including the titans of our industry are out of business. Yes. Because they were not building a business that had a revenue model that included, you know, there's a big difference between gross margin and net margin. And gross margin is the amount of money that you put on top of the cost. And 98% of that going to a salesman, the other 2% is not going to run a successful business. And it hasn't, and it didn't, and it's over. So that was Solar 2.0. In Solar 3.0, you're going to have real companies. Why? Because they're not going to have access to financing. By the way, not only are the real companies only going to have access to financing, but only good reps with real companies. So we have the preeminent, solar third-party ownership solar program. They are canceling dealers they're canceling installers, but they're canceling reps as well, left, right, and center, scores of them. And they're putting them into recheck so they can't be rehired by the next contractor to go a whole nother. So you're getting essentially like a credit score that follows you. And if you don't have a good credit score, you're not selling solar. So similar, think of a real estate association, an industry that's policed essentially by itself. And if you're not a good actor, you're not going to be doing business. And if you haven't been a good actor, you're canceled and you're blacklisted and you're gone. That was Solar 2.0 and it's over. Solar 3.0, whole new story.
I love it. And one of the things I want to speak on back to the batteries is one of the things that makes me nervous, right, keeps me up at night is relying on solar's value proposition based upon a net metering. And I think it's, it is what it is in a lot of the country and a lot of the markets. But I think the California model, like you said, so goes California, so goes the rest of the country. I love the product that, like you said, these big companies taking these massive power plants and putting them off grid, pulling them off the grid. That's essentially what hundreds of thousands of Californians are doing right now.
Exactly.
It's the exact concept.
They need to do exactly what Google did, right? Which is be unbelievably selfish and say, I'm going to acquire a power plant. I'm going to put it on my side of the meter. I will have effectively provisioned 25 years worth of power that my family needs at a fixed cost, right? And by the way, when Google was spending $5 billion to acquire these power plants, were they looking at how much a month those power plants were going to save them off their electric bill? No, they were looking at the ball game. What's the ball game? The ball game is Alphabet, Google is worth $3 or $4 trillion in valuation. And by the way, that's a valuation that I think is threatened, right? If ChatGPT leapfrogs Google and Google becomes irrelevant, like a Motorola flip phone happens in a day. I mean, how often do I go to Google now versus I just open up Chat? I love it. Somebody said, I just heard this on a podcast that, we've been going to search engines all this time, getting a bunch of results and a bunch of ads, and you don't know the answer to what the frick you were trying to find out, why you went searching. And instead, now we go to ChatGPT that has no ads, won't take money from anybody, and it's not a search engine, it's an answer engine. It gives me the answer. I never wanted to search. I wanted the answers. And so if they get, and I know Google's got their Gemini and they're the mountain. You can't beat the mountain. They're going to do great in the future and all that stuff. But in the meantime, I don't know. That's not where my traffic's going. But if they were to lose power for 3 weeks, they're worth $4 trillion. How much would Google be worth if they lost power for 3 weeks?
Yeah. All trust,
zero.
All credibility, all trust.
They don't have any lumber cutting equipment to sell. I mean, they sell electrons. They don't have electrons. They don't sell nothing in there. That's $4 trillion. So was Google saying, we're going to buy these $5 billion worth of power plants because we're going to save $100 a month? No. They bought the $5 billion worth of power plants because the $3 or $4 trillion could go away overnight if they could not guarantee the supply of those electrons. And that's what I'm saying to a homeowner. You need to do the same thing. You need to acquire a power plant. You need to put it on your side of the meter. What does that do? That gives you 100% of the output of that power plant for an entire 25 years at a fixed cost. Well, I thought it only saves me $37. I thought it was going to save me more money. It's like, bro, now you're making it weird. I just told you there's a tsunami coming. We can get your family to higher ground. We can get you out of the path of this tsunami. We can get you plugged in all the power you need, exactly how much you want and need. And the cost is, it's $37 less. You know what? Let's just make it $37 a month more so your brain works properly. You can get out of the way of the tsunami for only an additional $37 a month. I think that's actually a better proposition because otherwise you still got guys running around trying to sell savings. And it's like, dude, that's not what solar's about. Do you think these people need help? They're nuts. $5,000 a year, $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month. Do you think they need help saving $100 a month? No. Like, bro, maybe you need some help. I can help out around here if you need some help, but I'm not here to help you get through a Wendy's drive-through one more time a month. Like, we're trying to get you to higher ground, right? Oh, well, how much does it cost? Nothing. Nothing down. Why? The government wants you the hell out of the way as well. The reason that Trump did not kill the commercial tax credit is because Elon and David Sachs were telling him, this thing you're doing with the trillions coming in and investing into AI and automated manufacturing, that's going to take more electricity than you have. Right. So a year ago, I was saying at the White House, AI going to take more electricity. We need to double electricity because AI needs all that we have, all of it. He revised that in February from the White House at this circle with Meta and Microsoft and Alphabet, all those guys, and got into pinky swear and revised that. It says, well, it turns out AI does not need all of it. It doesn't need 4 trillion kilowatt hours. That's the whole amount we have. It needs double that. It needs 8 trillion kilowatt hours by 2035. So it needs twice the electricity that we have, and we're going to give it to them. Do you know why we're going to give AI the power, regardless of the fact that we don't have it, and it's going to screw everything else? Do you know why we're doing that?
Well, if not, we fall behind with China. We lose our position as the superpower of the world.
That's it. And by the way, you wonder when World War III is going to start. We're in it. This is World War III because World War III, I would say probably half of those electrons are needed. They're not needed for ChatGPT to, make me a singing postcard. It's needed for intelligence and military and running drones and all that kind of stuff. World War III is being fought now. The buildup, this arms race is to have the AI of the future that will be the military superpower, the economic superpower, the become interplanetary superpower. That's game over. We don't win that game, we'll have been number one for all that time, and it'll be like Vietnam. America won the Vietnam War every single solitary day except the last day. We lost the Vietnam War on the last day.
So
that's what AI will be ahead of technology, banking, wealth, and then in one day, they'll just turn the switch off. And China captured TikTok and AI, and we screwed it up.
This is why this is so important. I mean, we're already coming up close to the top of the hour, but you're hitting the nail on the head. I just did a training literally yesterday for a small team of my sellers. And I said, look, if there's one thing you can take away to be a better closer at the kitchen table, a better closer on a discovery call, a better closer at the door knock, is to communicate with urgency about the problem, about the existential problem.
That's it.
We've spent most of this interview talking about that. And I love that if you don't have urgency, that kind of urgency that you have, Michael O'Donnell, and if you don't communicate with that kind of conviction and urgency, you're missing the bigger picture. You could say a ton of other fancy, cool, smart things about solar and inverters and batteries and this and that. But if the homeowner doesn't completely understand what you're talking about, the existential problem, why are we even talking at the kitchen table?
My role model, my vision for what I'm doing on a door, especially at the door, is Paul Revere, right? What was Paul Revere doing? He was going door to door, and he was delivering an urgent message. What was that urgent message? You need to get your ass on your horse and follow me the hell out of here, or you're going to be in trouble because the British are coming. By coming, I mean down the street. And the response is, yeah, we heard about that. We're not really interested in the British.
It's crazy.
You're like, McFly, hello. And that's kind of what you have to do on a door. You have to do it in a diplomatic fashion. Salesman's job is to say, tell people to go to hell while making it sound like a pretty good trip, right? Your job on a door is to go, hey, McFly, why are you acting like you have the IQ of a goldfish? I'm here telling you the water level is dropping precipitously and you need to get the hell out of here. And the goldfish is going, what water?
Yeah.
What's water?
Right.
And you're like, bro, water. We're sitting there talking to people and they go, energy, electricity. Oh, I got plugs. I plug shit in. It works, man. We're good. That is the overwhelming thing I hear on a door. We're good.
Right.
McFly, you're not good. Step out here into the yard and look behind your house. There's a tidal wave of electricity demand coming. And when you see the water receding and disappearing, it's too late. There's not enough time to get the hell out of the way.
Right.
When you're on the beach and the water is receding out a half a mile, you're too late. You got to listen to me. You got to get on your horse. We got to get the hell out of here. The British are coming. This electricity crisis, this electricity emergency is no joke. Well, how much money are you going to give me a month? Shut up. Now you're making it stupid. How much money am I going to give you a month? This is not about getting you 50 or $100. It's about getting you to higher ground, provisioning the needs for your family, knowing what that cost could be, not getting taken out of the ability to be the homeowner on a 2,500, 3,000 square foot home because you just flat out can't afford how much gas has to go in the tank.
Yep.
It's craziness.
No, and I hear you. And it's like, that's always the problem in sales, right? Is how do we communicate that value? And it's like, look, it's simple, Mr. Homeowner. If we can produce all the power your home needs on site, store the excess power for nighttime production to take your house all the way through to the next morning where the batteries can recharge, essentially taking you off grid 90 to 95% of the time. And if we can do that at even a penny less per kilowatt hour than what you're currently doing,
a penny more, if we could do that for a penny more, because the stuff's going to double in price. So I'm in Tampa, Florida last week, where the price of power has gone from 11 or 12 cents pre-COVID to now 20 and a half cents after COVID. It's gone up 83% in 5 years. And the problem hasn't even got here yet.
Right.
Okay. That was just COVID weird inflation. The problem is here now, and it's going to be here. It's going to be here, and it's going to be sudden. It's going to be severe, and it's going to be soon. They're going to plug in 1.3 trillion kilowatt hour, $1.3 trillion worth of AI this year. And where's that power come from? It just needs all of it. The Department of Energy is warning homeowners, consumers, warning, giving this radical, unprecedented, unfixable gap in supply and demand. We're predicting, just like California's had for the last 20 years, brownouts. We're predicting 100 times more outages in the next, I say next 5 years, but between now and 2030, which is not 5 years, right? Between now and 2030, more outages between now and then that have happened and occurred in the last 50 years.
Right.
You better bet your bottom dollar you need a battery.
Here's the interesting thing about the sales side too, is that because the media and politicians and now the solar sales guy at the door are all alarmists, right? We come across sometimes maybe as alarmists that people sometimes just, they become dull. They shut off, they're asleep, like you kind of said earlier, where they're just like, oh yeah, we've heard this, we've heard that, you know, and they're asleep at the wheel. So they think, well, it's just another.
They've heard about a tsunami.
Well, and the thing is, that's crazy. You have politicians at the top, like, again, people in California, that's kind of like, you know, oh, we're going to come and we're going to put all the power, we're going to force the utilities to put the power grounds in their line, and we're going to go nuclear, and we're going to do this, and solar doesn't work, and it's failed. It's like, what are you guys talking about, right?
Yeah, it's the only solution for a homeowner.
It's the only solution for a homeowner. So anyways, it's you know, kind of moving into this next era. There's a lot of stuff we could mine here, but just kind of bringing it back to what is the next, you know, 6 to 12 months look like? What should a rep be looking for when they're looking for a solid company to plant their career with? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's not going to have any of the hallmarks of the Solar 2.0 companies. What's the company that can get me a great run line in 42 states? That you don't want to be with that company. Why? Because they went out of business, right? All of them went out of business. Right. You want to be with a company that knows that terrain, that knows that utility, that knows the installation, construction, permitting, all that stuff of where you are. And you want to sell solar where you are. You want to be running all over hell and gone selling solar. You want to sell solar where you are. That's your communities who are the ones that need your help. You know, and if you're not in a community that works well with solar, go find one and move there, right? But get better and better and better and be building a business. You know, there's a big difference between building a burger to flip and building a business, right? A business looks like customers that have referrals that repeat. My phone rings probably 2 or 3 times a month with somebody I've already sold solar to, and they're moving. 6 years ago, 8 years ago. I think I'm either the luckiest sales guy or the smartest solar sales guy in the industry. I don't know which one. I would guess smart and be wrong. It's lucky. that I happened to stumble onto a company that the first week I sold it, they handed me my check, right? I got my M1 the first week I sold it. And this week, the ones that I sold this week, they're handing me my M1s, right? On time, right away. And they're from the same bank account from 12 years ago. I've been getting my paychecks from the same company for 12 years. And at that time, I didn't own the company, right? Val and I are partners in Sun Solar Solutions. So he and I own Sun Solar Solutions, but I wasn't an owner then. My paychecks have been coming from the same bank account for that long. You're looking for a company that can go the distance, right? You're looking for a company that has a brand, has a reputation, has an insistence on transparency to the customer, educating them properly, and then delivering a great product that's going to last the warranty period, 25 years. And that means their roof isn't going to leak. If somebody's, 10 or 20 cents cheaper than the company that is known. I had a guy walk into my office here in Las Vegas yesterday. Literally, we're having a sales meeting. He walks in the door. My office in Las Vegas is not a showcase, right? It's not a showroom, man. It's a warehouse, and it's got maybe 200 square feet of office space, maybe 1,000 or something. But anyway, it's a small little warehouse office, and we're in there having a sales meeting, and somebody walks in the front door, and somebody from operations comes into this, the sales office, and they go, "There's a guy here who wants he wants an appointment. He wants a solar quote." We're like, "Wow, someone walking in the door. What's that like?" Right? That they're going to come in the droves, by the way. And so I send an appointment setter out there. They set an appointment for yesterday. I see the guy at 2:00. I sell him a solar system. I said, "Hey, dude, do you work in that complex? We're an industrial complex, right? Do you work in here?" And he says, No. I'm a bus driver." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Were you just driving by and saw our tiny little sign where the truck's out front, Sun Solar, Sun Solar?" He goes, No. He says, "I looked up all of the companies that sell solar in Las Vegas." He says, "I just bought this house. I'm going to put solar on it as a brand new roof. I'm really worried about the roof." Somebody thinking about what solar does and how you install solar. It's on your roof. He says, "I'm really worried about the roof. And I read everybody's reviews. You're the only company that didn't have a bunch of reviews talking about leaky roofs. You had no reviews talking about leaky roofs, right? 4.9 stars and no leaky roofs." And I said, "Yeah, that's because we install them so they don't leak." Like, what are you talking about? Like, we found that out. I remember going to, our installer back in the day going, "Hey, you know what? Every time it rains, the phone rings off the hook. Can we do it this way? Because if you can do it this way, it doesn't leak." And they go, No, that costs like 10 cents more." I'm like, "Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. 10 cents to not leak." And they go, No. It's cheaper to fix the ones that leak than spend the 10 cents. And it wasn't the 10 cents. It was that the red line would have been 10 cents higher,
so the
and they would have lost the dealers. And so I've been living with that for 10 years. I've lost more dealers than I've ever signed up. We're not really a big EPC. We do direct sales, and we have partners, people who look for a quality installer who's going to do a great job and turn their customers into 5-star reviews and repeat customers. And that's what you want. You want 5-star reviews and repeat customers. That's building a business. Referrals, reviews, and repeat business is what you want to build a business. And that's what we've been doing for 12 years at Sun Solar. And we're not everywhere, so you can't all
I was going to say, what markets?
But you need to find a company that has those values and has those ways of going about business.
And what markets are you guys in now?
We're in Arizona, we're in Nevada, and we're in Florida.
Florida, that's right. I've seen you in Florida.
We're awesome in those 3 states. And we're in a race with everyone else to be in 40 states. We're just going to come in dead last.
That's amazing. I think you're working with one of my buddies, Apollo Conley. No,
yes, he's a pistol, man. He is
so much energy. Well, I love what you're doing. I love that. Yeah, you're not trying to be the most aggressive top, sales org in the sense of we're just here to serve the seller. You really are there to serve the customer at the end of the day. And that has been the problem is these companies come and they do what's right for the salesperson first, so they can attract more volume and have bigger numbers and have a bigger valuation. And it becomes, a giant pump and dump scheme where these companies come and they go and they don't have any intention of being around for the long term. And what you're doing is
over.
Yeah, it's building the legacy for the future. So just to kind of bring this thing home, is there any last ideas or coaching?
Well, just that. So if this conversation is meaning anything to you, You need to know it's not a pitch. It's not a speech. I didn't come up with this last night. This is a conversation that's going on every single day. When I'm on somebody's door, in someone's kitchen table, I'm trying to be talking about what they heard on the news last night. And they go, I just heard about that. Like, yeah. Did you hear about that? Yeah. What'd you hear? You picked me. Well, I heard, blah, blah, blah. And so, and you're right. I have kind of a knack for that. I'm a news guy. I listen to Face the Nation and Meet the Press, not football on Sunday. That's just my thing. It's my guilty pleasure is listening to the news, listening to the podcast. So I also happen to sell. I was in the data center building business for 20 years. So I happen to know a little bit about the power and the needs of a data center and what's going on. But in the MOD Sales Academy, which I started, back the daily calls that I do on that thing have been going on now for about 6.5 years. This conversation changes every day. It gets better every single day. It's a mastermind. If you want to do well, Napoleon Hill says you need to have a mastermind. So I created this mastermind, the MOD Sales Academy, and we do this. The big name of the book is No Matter What. It's the No Matter What call. It happens every single day, Monday through Friday. There's another one that happens on Sunday. That academy has 300 hours of recorded training on how to do these word tracks, on how to overcome objections by coming back to the urgency, how to close the deal by coming back to the urgency. And the value that we provide to homeowners is there's only two things we do that are valuable, and a solar presentation is not one of them, right? The two things we do is wake up the goldfish and find somebody who is not shopping for solar. And if you're buying leads so that you can only talk to people who are shopping for solar, God bless you. You want to, put 5 cents on a deal and push it through. But you're looking for people not shopping for solar and have them go, oh yeah, how come I'm not looking at solar? What the hell's wrong with me, right? That's valuable because that causes people to change course and change direction and be on a valuable trajectory. And then when you show it to them and they go, you know what? This is making a hell of a lot of sense. No, not only does it make sense, how could these numbers be true and all this stuff you're talking about be true and all my neighbors don't already have it? And what they're saying is, this is too good to be true and I'm going to need some time to check this out. And so we're going to decide to do nothing instead of do something. And that's when your job begins. Your job begins when the customer says, you know what, I'm feeling like procrastination is really the prudent course here. And that would have been right in a timeshare presentation. Maybe that's right in a car dealership. You want to get out of there, whatever. I would say that is not the correct or prudent action when someone is considering going green. When they're looking at it now, the time to do it is right now. And I'm kind of famous for saying I'm not coming back. Let me just tell you, if you get somebody interested in solar and they tell you want to think about it and you say, well, I'm not coming back, they're just going to heave-ho you the hell out the door. You need to tell them you're not coming back when you knock on their door. You need to tell them you're not coming back when you're walking in the door, because you need to describe to them what's happening. They need to understand your job, the context of what's going on. So when it gets down to the end and they say, you know what, we got to think about it, and you're going to reassert the fact, it's not a threat, it's just a fact. I'm not coming back. I don't go to second presentations. But the customer understands it because I've built a frame, right? A door frame. I've hung that door. And at the end, when they go, I just close the door. You have to learn to be a closer, and that's where the other half of the value is. One half of the value is projecting your ass onto the doorstep, which is opened by a goldfish level IQ. Homeowners aren't stupid. They just act stupid when there's a salesman at the door. And you have to have what it takes to flip that goldfish brain on and go, oh, yeah, shoot, yeah, that makes sense. All right, damn it. Yeah, we need you over. Come over. God dang it, I didn't want you over. Yep, I'm coming over. And then when you get there and they say, this is wow, oh, thank God you're here. You're the guy. We're going solar. But we're not doing it today. We're doing it tomorrow. To have the guts and the foresight and mostly the training. And that's what we're doing in the MOD Sales Academy, is training people how to make them understand this isn't the meeting about the meeting. This is the meeting. We're going solar in the meeting. I'm not coming back to another meeting, because everything that I could do for you is going to happen in this meeting, including what I'm going to do for you right now, which is have you end up understanding and agreeing with me that starting the process is in your interest, because it is. I know that. I have conviction about it. My ability is to transfer my confidence that I have. That's what conviction's about. I'm able to transfer the confidence I have that this is the right thing for them to do and to get started now, because it is, because I know it. And I'm not going to come back to someone who can't deal with that. That's not my job. I have people for that. I'm not going to tell people oh, you can't buy from us if you don't buy today. You can buy from us any day you wake up and want to go solar. I just won't be that person in the meeting.
Right.
I'll have done everything I can do for you. And, if you're someone that just can't pull a trigger, I'm not the right person. I got people that'll babysit you for 2 years and get you solar 2 years now, but you're not getting this metering deal. You're not getting this tax credit deal. You're not getting anything associated with it. It's not going to be this deal.
Right.
You're going to go solar at a different time in a different way. And I recommend doing it right here, right now with this metering deal, with this product set, and getting you grandfathered into the deal as we're going to move forward. But we just need to get the process started today.
If you're listening to this, guys, and you haven't read No Matter What, go do that immediately. Like, don't wait. Like, that same level of urgency that Michael communicates with the homeowner. I'm going to say that you need to get the book, get into MOD Sales Academy right away. Michael, thank you so much for being a mentor.
So good to be with you, Jonathan. We've chopped it up over the years. It was fun to really go at it today. And I appreciate you having me on Go Green.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You bet.